Chosen ones, lean in and listen with discernment, because what I am about to release is not meant to create fear, but to awaken wisdom. There is a stirring in the spirit, a tightening in your chest that you could not explain, a hesitation you felt when you smiled, but your soul did not agree. God is warning you, not because you are weak, but because you are valuable. This is not about every man, and it is not about suspicion without cause. This is about one man whose presence feels familiar, but whose intention is misaligned. You felt peace leaving the room when he entered, yet you questioned yourself because he spoke kindly and sounded convincing. But chosen one, your discernment is sharper than you think, and heaven is confirming what your spirit already sensed. This man does not arrive loudly. He does not come announcing harm. He comes wrapped in charm, clothed in understanding, fluent in spiritual language, able to mirror your pain and repeat your prayers back to you as if he lived them. He studies you, not to protect you, but to learn how to access you. He knows when to affirm you and when to withdraw just enough to make you reach. He is Pady. NT, not because he is pure, but because he is strategic. God is warning you because access to you is access to assignment, and not everyone who applauds your calling is meant to walk with you. You wondered why conversations with him left you drained instead of strengthened. You noticed how your clarity blurred after certain interactions, how your fire dimmed just a little, how your joy felt delay. This is not coincidence. Some people are sent as distractions disguised as confirmations. They echo what God said, but they twist the timing. They affirm the promise, but they redirect the path. God is warning you because the enemy does not always attack from the outside. Sometimes he attempts to sit beside you and speak softly. This man is intrigued by your light, but intimidated by your grow. He celebrates you publicly, but competes with you privately. He listens to your testimony, not to praise God, but to measure himself against what you survived. He asks questions that feel caring, yet later you realize those same details were used to position himself closer, not to protect you, but to benefit from your vulnerability. Chosen one, God is not accusing you, he is protecting you. Re not foolish for trusting, but you must not ignore the red flags simply because the wrapping looks holy. There are moments when he subtly discourages your obedience, not directly, not aggressively, but through suggestion. He says things like, you don't have to rush when God told you to move. He says, maybe you're overthinking when the Holy Spirit already confirmed. He normalizes delay and calls it wisdom. He reframes disobedience and labels it balance. And if you're not careful, you will begin to second guess God's voice because someone else's voice is consistently louder in your ear. God is warning you because this man benefits when you doubt yourself. He gains ground when you postpone purpose. He is comfortable when you stay small, manageable, and accessible. He does not want you fully healed because healed people require less validation. He does not want you fully confident because confident people ask fewer questions. He does not want you fully aligned because alignment exposes motives. So he keeps you in conversation, in confusion, in cycles that feel productive but produce no fruit. Chosen one, notice how he reacts when you set boundaries. Watch how his tone shifts. Say yes when you say no. Pay attention to how he spiritualizes his disappointment. He might say he understands, but his energy withdraws. He might say he supports you, but his actions create pressure. God is warning you because true alignment does not punish obedience. Anyone who resents your boundaries is revealing that they benefited from your lack of them. This man is not necessarily evil in appearance, but his influence is unhealthy for your destiny. Not everyone sent to you is sent for you. Some are assignments you were meant to outgrow. Some connections expire quietly, and discernment is knowing when to release without drama. God is warning you because delay and separation can cause confusion in direction. You cannot carry someone into a season they were never prepared to sustain. You ask God for companionship, and the enemy attempted to send familiarity. You prayed for understanding, and a counterfeit listener appeared. You asked for support, and someone offered presence without alignment. This is why God is speaking now. Not to shame you, but to sharpen you. Not to isolate you, but to realign you. The warning is not loud because God trusts your discernment. He whispers because he knows you can hear him if you quiet everything else. This man watches how people respond to you. He notices the favor on your life. He pays attention to doors opening for you and measures how close he can stand without being exposed. He benefits from association, from proximity, from access. But when it is time for sacrifice, he hesitates. When it is time for commitment, he delays. When it is time for accountability, he deflects. God is warning you because destiny relationships do not drain you, they develop you. Chosen one, stop explaining yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you. Stop shrinking revelations so they can fit someone else's comfort level. Stop dimming your fire to maintain peace with someone who is unsettled by your growth. Peace that requires you to disobey God is not peace, it is compromise, and God is warning you because compromise today becomes captivity tomorrow. This man knows Scripture but lacks surrender. He speaks of faith but avoids obedience. He is inspired by your walk but unwilling to walk with discipline. He wants the reward without the refining. He wants the outcome without the altar. He wants access without accountability. And if you are not careful, you will start carrying his weight, praying his prayers, fighting his battles, while neglecting your own assignment. God is warning you because you are entering a season that requires clarity, not confusion, precision, not pressure, obedience, not emotional attachment. This next level will not tolerate divided loyalty. You cannot carry someone who refuses to grow while God is calling you higher. You cannot keep interpreting silence as peace when heaven has already spoken. You felt the check in your spirit when he joked about things you take seriously. You felt the pause when he minimized your calling. You felt the discomfort when he questioned your conviction. Those were not random feelings, they were confirmations. Discernment does not always come as a vision, Psalm. Times it comes as unease. Sometimes it comes as exhaustion. Sometimes it comes as God saying, pay attention. This warning is not meant to create distance from people. It is meant to create closeness with God. The closer you get to purpose, the more selective your relationships must become. Not because you are better, but because you are responsible. There are seasons when God allows certain opal to walk with you, and seasons when he quietly removes them. The danger is when you try to keep what God is asking you to release. Chosen one, this man does not define you, delay you, or defeat you, but he can distract you if you let him. And distraction is dangerous because it feels harmless. It feels like conversation, connection, consistency, but anything that consistently pulls your focus away from God's instruction is not neutral. God is warning you because he is about to accelerate you. And acceleration exposes what was tolerable in slower seasons. You are not being dramatic. You are not being judgmental. You are being discerning. And discernment often looks like distance before it looks like clarity. It looks like silence before it looks like peace. It looks like obedience before it looks like understanding. Trust the warning, trust the nudge. Trust the discomfort that keeps returning no matter how much you try to ignore it. This man will not necessarily leave loudly. He may fade, he may resist, he may attempt to reconnect when you grow, he may reappear when you level up, speaking familiar words, reminding you of old seasons, trying to regain access. But remember this moment. Remember this warning. Remember that God spoke before the damage was done. You are protected because you are chosen. You are warned because you are trusted. God does not warn everyone. He warns those who will listen. And as you move forward, you will begin to notice how much lighter you feel when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. You will notice how your prayers become clear, or how your joy returns without effort, how your confidence stabilizes when conflicting voices are removed. Chosen one, do not confront what God is asking you to quietly step away from. Not every separation requires explanation. Not every ending requires closure. Obedience is sometimes simply choosing distance without drama. Let God handle the rest. Let him expose what needs to be exposed. Let him redirect what needs to be redirected. This is not the end of connection for you. It is the beginning of alignment. This is not loss. It is protection. This is not rejection. It is redirection. And as you continue forward, staying sensitive, staying prayerful, staying obedient, you will begin to see why God spoke when he did. Because what he is preparing to release in your life cannot be accessed by everyone, and especially not by a man who was never meant to walk with you into what comes next. Because where you are going requires integrity, humility, and obedience at a level that will expose every hidden motive, every unhealed wound, every secret agenda. And as you step into this next phase, you will start to notice that the conversations change, the invitations shift, the silence grows louder, and the clarity becomes undeniable as God continues to reveal layer by layer what you must release, what you must guard, and who you must no longer allow to have access to your spirit as you move closer to the moment where everything aligns and you finally understand why the warning came when it did and why obedience in this season will determine how smoothly you walk into what God has already prepared for you. Because if you delay now, the cost will be higher later, and the longer you hesitate, the more difficult it becomes to separate emotion from instruction. Which is why God is saying right now, listen carefully, move gently, and do not ignore what you are sensing, because this is not confusion, this is confirmation. And as you continue to walk forward, you will begin to see That what felt like loss was actually protection unfolding in real time. As the path narrows, the noise fades, and your spirit becomes sharp enough to recognize without doubt, without fear, without hesitation, that this warning was never meant to harm you, but to position you correctly before the door opens and the season shifts and you find yourself standing at the edge of something so significant that anyone standing beside you must be able to withstand the weight of what God is about to place on your life. And that is why from this moment on, you must guard your heart, guard your ear, and guard your alignment. Because not every man who walks with you can walk where God is taking you. And as you breathe, pray, and prepare, you will realize that the separation you resisted is the very thing, creating the space necessary for the next instruction, the next connection, and the next move that God is about to reveal as he continues to speak, guide, and warn you along the way while you remain attentive to every signal, every nudge, every pause, and every moment where your spirit feels the need to slow down and listen, because what comes next will require you to be fully present, fully obedient, NT, and fully aligned. And this is only the beginning of what God is showing you as he continues to unfold the truth about the path ahead and the people who are no longer meant to walk it with you as you step forward into the next moment where the story continues and the instruction becomes even clearer, and you begin to understand that this warning was not the final word, but the opening signal for everything that is about to unfold from here. And as that understanding settles into your spirit, you begin to notice how God starts adjusting your sensitivity. Things you once tolerated now feel heavy. Conversations that once felt normal now feel misaligned. It is not because you have become distant or cold. It is because clarity has entered the room. When clarity arrives, confusion loses its hiding place. You start hearing God in the pauses, in the moments between words, in the discomfort you used to explain away. And suddenly you realize that the warning was not a single moment, but a process unfolding to strengthen your discernment so you can recognize patterns before they become problems. This man may attempt to reframe the narrative. He may subtly suggest that you are changing too much, that you are becoming guarded, that you are no longer as open as before. But what he calls guarded, God calls protected. What he calls distant, God calls focused. Growth often looks like withdrawal to those who benefited from your availability. And you must remember this, not everyone deserves the same version of you in every season. Some people only knew you in survival mode, and they feel threatened when you step into authority. You will notice that when you are silent, he becomes uneasy. When you stop explaining, he feels exposed. When you stop seeking validation, he loses leverage. Silence is powerful when you are chosen because it allows God to speak louder. And God is teaching you that not every reaction deserves a response. Not every question deserves an answer. And not every relationship deserves continued access. Sometimes obedience is simply choosing restraint. This man may test your resolve. He may reach out unexpectedly. He may attempt emotional connection through memories, through shared experiences, through reminders of what once felt safe. But safety that delays destiny is not safety at all. God is strengthening you to recognize emotional hooks that are no longer effective. You are learning to feel without being led by feeling, to care without compromising, to love without losing direction. There will be moments when you question yourself, when you wonder if you misinterpreted the warning, when loneliness whispers that compromise would be easier than obedience. But in those moments, remember how far you have come. Remember the prayers God answered. No one else was there. Remember the strength he built in you when you had no support. You did not survive all of that to surrender discernment now. God did not carry you through storms just to abandon you at the shore of promise. This man may admire your resilience, but admiration without alignment is insufficient. He may be inspired by your discipline, but inspiration without transformation adds nowhere. God is warning you because destiny requires partnership, not spectatorship. The people meant to walk with you will not only applaud your obedience, they will encourage it even when it challenges them. As you move forward, you will notice how your prayers shift. You stop asking God to explain people to you, and you start asking him to align you more deeply with his will. You stop praying for clarity about others and start praying for consistency within yourself. This is maturity. This is growth. This is what happens when you stop outsourcing discernment and start trusting the Spirit within you. The warning about this man is also an invitation to self-examination, not to blame yourself, but to understand why access was granted in the first place. God is gentle in this process. He does not expose to shame. He reveals to heal. You begin to see where emotional gaps existed, where unhealed wounds made certain dynamics feel familiar. And instead of condemning yourself, you allow God to restore those places so that familiarity no longer replaces discernment. You are learning that chosen ones must be selective, not because they are afraid of connection, but because they respond. Your life is not casual. Your purpose is not random. Your assignment is not negotiable. Anyone allowed into your inner world must be able to steward what God is building. And stewardship requires maturity, humility, and submission to God's timing. This man may speak about the future, but avoid preparation. He may talk about growth, but resist accountability. He may reference God, but avoid surrender. And you are beginning to see that words without fruit cannot be trusted. Consistency reveals more than confession ever could. God is training your eyes to look beyond charisma and listen for obedience. As days pass, you feel a strengthening in your spirit. What once caused anxiety now brings peace. What once demanded explanation now feels settled. This is what happens when aligned. ET replaces attachment. You are no longer torn between intuition and emotion. They begin to agree, and that agreement brings stability. You may notice that other areas of your life begin to open as this connection loosens. Creativity returns, motivation increases, sleep becomes restful again. These are not coincidences. When God removes a drain, he restores flow. When he closes a door, he opens capacity. When he limits access, he increases clarity. The warning was never meant to isolate you, it was meant to prepare you. There are divine connections ahead that require you to be whole, present, and unburdened by unresolved attachments. God is not removing people to leave you empty. He is making room so you can receive what is aligned. You begin to understand that obedience is cumulative. Every small decision to listen strengthens your ability to hear. Every boundary you honor sharpens your discernment. Every moment you choose God over comfort increases your authority. And authority changes how people relate to you. Those who sought control become uncomfortable. Those who seek alignment become drawn. This man may not understand the shift, but understanding is not required for Obed. You are not responsible for managing his reaction. You are responsible for maintaining your alignment. God is teaching you to release responsibility for outcomes that do not belong to you. Your assignment is obedience. God handles consequences. As you continue walking, you realize that this warning was not only about a person, but about a pattern God is breaking, a pattern of overextending, a pattern of explaining, a pattern of carrying more than your portion. This season is about balance, clarity, and strength. You are stepping into a version of yourself that does not chase, does not convince, does not beg to be understood. You're becoming comfortable with being misunderstood by people who no longer have access. And that comfort is freeing. It allows you to move without hesitate, to decide without guilt, to listen without fear. This is what spiritual maturity looks like. This is what happens when chosen ones stop negotiating with discernment. God continues to whisper guidance as you move. Sometimes it comes as peace. Sometimes it comes as restraint. Sometimes it comes as a closed door you no longer try to force open. You are learning that resistance is often protectio in disguise. And you are grateful now even for the moments that confused you because they led you here. The warning about this man sharpened your awareness. It trained you to recognize energy shifts, tone changes, subtle manipulation, and emotional imbalance. These are tools you will carry forward. Not to become suspicious, but to remain grounded. Not to build walls, but to establish gates. You begin to trust yourself again. And that trust changes everything. Decisions become easier. Doubt loses its grip. You no longer seek constant reassurance because you are anchored in God's voice. And that anchoring allows you to move steadily, confidently, without rushing or retreating. There will be moments when you reflect on what could have been, when curiosity tries to revisit old conversat. Ions. But each time, clarity meets you. You remember the unease, you remember the warning, and you choose peace over curiosity, obedience over nostalgia, alignment over attachment. God continues to prepare you quietly. There is work happening beneath the surface, connections forming you have not yet seen, opportunities aligning that require your full attention, and you sense it. You sense that so. Everything is shifting, that the atmosphere around you is changing, that your steps are being ordered more precisely than before. This season is teaching you that discernment is not dramatic, it is consistent, it is not loud, it is steady, it does not rush, it confirms. And as you stay attentive, you realize that God is not only warning you about what to avoid, but training you to recognize what to. Embrace. Your heart is becoming lighter, not because you care less, but because you carry less that does not belong to you. And in that lightness, you move with greater freedom, greater confidence, greater peace. You are no longer distracted by voices that question your obedience. You are no longer pulled by relationships that dilute your focus. The path ahead begins to feel clearer, even if not fully revealed. You do not need all the details. You only need the next instruction. And you are learning to move one step at a time, trusting that God will continue to speak, continue to guide, continue to warn when necessary. This is not the end of the lesson. It is the deepening of it. God is refining your discernment so that as you move forward, RD, you will recognize alignment quickly and release misalignment without struggle. You are becoming decisive, not impulsive, confident, not arrogant, discerning, not defensive. And as you remain in this posture, listening, observing, trusting, you will continue to notice how God speaks through patterns, through peace, through persistence. He will continue to show you what belongs in your life and what must remain outside of it as you move steadily forward, aware that this warning was only one layer of a much larger unfolding, and that as you stay attentive, obedient, and grounded, the next revelation, the next instruction, and the next shift will come at the right moment, building upon everything you have already learned as the journey continues to unfold step by step. And with each saint, EP forward, you start to sense that God is not only refining your discernment about people, but about timing. You realize that some warnings are not about permanent danger, but about present positioning. You were not meant to confront, correct, or carry this man into maturity. You were meant to recognize the season and move accordingly. That understanding releases pressure you did not even know, you were carrying. You stop trying to fix what God never assigned you to heal. You begin to see how easily compassion can turn into compromise when boundaries are absent. God is not asking you to become less compassionate. He is teaching you how to apply compassion without self-betrayal. You are learning that love does not require access, and empathy does not require proximity. This is wisdom. This is strength. This is what happens when chosen ones mature beyond emotional impulse and step into spiritual authority. The warning also awakens your awareness of spiritual warfare that is subtle, not aggressive. Not every battle feels like resistance. Some feel like distraction. Some feel like comfort. Some feel like familiarity. And God is teaching you that warfare at this level is not about casting out demons loudly, but about guarding alignment quietly. The enemy does not always need to stop you. Sometimes all he needs to do is slow you down. This man may never openly oppose your calling, but passive resistance can be just as damaging. A lack of support when courage is required. Silence when encouragement is needed. Distance when partnership is necessary. You begin to understand that alignment is revealed not only in words spoken, but in weight carried. Those meant to walk with you will help carry the weight of obedience, not add to it. As your discernment sharpens, you also notice that God is restoring your confidence in your own spiritual perception. You no longer dismiss your inner knowing as emotion. You no longer downplay intuition as imagination. You recognize the difference between fear and discernment, between anxiety and instruction. And that recognition gives you peace, because peace often accompanies truth, even when truth requires separation. You start noticing how often God protected you before by redirecting conversations, delaying meetings, canceling plans. Moments you once considered inconveniences now appear as interventions. God has been faithful all along. The warning about this man is simply the continuation of that faithfulness. It is God saying, I am still watching. I am still guiding. I am still covering you. There is also humility that grows in you. You realize that discernment does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. You do not look down on this man. You simply see clearly. You pray without attachment. You release without resentment. You bless without bonding. This balance keeps your heart clean and your path clear. You may notice that as you detach, he becomes more noticeable to Ova, RS as well. Not because you expose him, but because light naturally reveals what was hidden. You do not need to warn everyone. God handles exposure in his own time. Your role is obedience, not investigation. Your role is alignment, not accusation. The deeper you walk with God, the more you understand that warnings are acts of intimacy. God does not warn strangers. He warns those he trusts, those he has plans for, those whose obedience will shape outcomes beyond what they can see. You are trusted. That trust requires maturity, and you are growing into it. You may feel moments of grief, not for the person, but for the version of yourself that tolerated misalignment longer than necessary. That grief is part of healing. Do not rush it. Allow God to show you compassion for your own journey. Why? Oh, did the best you could with what you knew then. Now you know more. Now you move differently. God is also teaching you patience with process. Just because you see clearly now does not mean everything will resolve immediately. Some shifts are gradual, some separations are quiet, some clarity unfolds in layers. Trust the pace. Rushing clarity can lead to unnecessary conflict. Stillness allows God to do the work you cannot. You begin to notice how much energy is freed when you stop monitoring someone else's reactions. You are no longer hyper-aware of his mood, his tone, his presence. That energy returns to your own purpose. You think more clearly. You pray more deeply. You focus more fully. This is what happens when distraction leaves. Your dreams may become more vivid. Your thoughts more ordered, your emotions more regulated. These are signs of alignment. When the spirit is at peace, the mind follows. God is restoring internal harmony as external noise fades. This season is also teaching you that being chosen does not mean being surrounded. Sometimes it means walking alone for a while, not as punishment, but as preparation. Solitude strengthens discernment. Silence amplifies God's voice. Distance clarifies direction. You are learning that discernment is not reactive, it is proactive. It does not wait for damage. It prevents it. And God is proud of your obedience, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it costs familiarity, even when it requires restraint. This man may eventually realize the shift, but realization does not guarantee change. And change is not your responsibility. You are not called to manage outcomes, only obedience. God handles hearts. God handles timing. God handles consequences. As you continue forward, you will encounter new people. Some will feel refreshing, some will feel neutral, some will feel draining immediately. You will recognize these sensations faster now. Discernment sharpens with use. You will trust your inner witness without overanalyzing it. God is also teaching you to distinguish between assignment and attachment. Some people are assignments for a season. Once the season ends, attachment becomes disobedience. This understanding frees you from guilt when letting go. You are becoming less available to confusion and more available to clarity, less responsive to emotional pull and more responsive. Spiritual instruction. This is growth. This is authority. This is what happens when chosen ones mature into their calling. There will be moments when you look back and realize how close you came to delay. Not destruction, but delay. And you will thank God for the warning. You will thank him for loving you enough to interrupt comfort, for caring enough to disrupt familiarity, for protecting you from subtle detours. The path ahead requires focus. It requires stamina. It requires obedience when understanding is incomplete, and you are being trained for that now. This warning was not random, it was preparatory. God is aligning you for something that requires discernment at a higher level. As you walk, you feel a deeper trust in God's timing. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop rushing decisions. You allow clarity to mature before action. This patience is not passivity, it is wisdom. Your relationship with God deepens in this season, not because you have more answers, but because you trust him more fully. You talk to him honestly, you listen attentively, you move deliberately. This intimacy sustains you as external relationships shift. You may notice that your standards rise, not from pride, but from clarity. You are no longer impressed by words alone. You look for consistency, humility, obedience. You value peace over excitement, alignment over attraction, purpose over proximity. God continues to speak in small ways through scripture that resonates unexpectedly, through quiet moments that bring sudden understanding, through our repeated confirmations that reassure you that you are on the right path. A warning about this. Man becomes less about him and more about you, about your growth, about your authority, about your future. And you realize that God was never trying to scare you, he was preparing you. You are learning to listen without panic, to respond without haste, to move without regret. This steadiness anchors you. It keeps you grounded as the journey unfolds. As time passes, the emotional weight of the warning lifts, replaced by gratitude. Gratitude for protection, gratitude for clarity, gratitude for growth. You feel stronger, not hardened, wiser, not cynical. God is shaping you into someone who can carry greater responsibility without losing peace. Someone who can discern without condemning. Someone who can love without losing alignment. And as you continue forward, attentive to God's voice, aware of your boundaries, grounded in your calling, you sense that this is only one chapter of a much larger story. A story where discernment becomes second nature, obedience becomes instinctive, and clarity becomes your companion as you walk into what God is unfolding next, step by step, moment by moment. T, with confidence growing quietly within you as the journey continues and God keeps revealing what you need to know exactly when you need to know it, guiding you forward as the path opens gradually and the purpose becomes clearer with each obedient step you take. Chosen one, let this be the moment you stop wrestling with what God has already made clear. The warning was not sent to confuse you, as low you or frighten you, but to steady your steps as you move forward with purpose. What God is doing in your life is too precise, too intentional, and too weighty to be navigated with divided attention. Trust that the distance you created was divinely guided, that the restraint you practiced was spiritually mature, and that the obedience you chose will speak louder than any explanation you could. Given. You were never asked to fix, convince, or rescue, only to listen and move when God spoke. As you walk on from here, carry this truth with you. Clarity is a gift, discernment is protection, and obedience is acceleration. What you released was not meant to follow you, and what is meant for you will recognize your alignment without confusion or resistance. God has not brought you this far to leave you uncertain or unsupported. He goes before you, He walks with you, and He guards what concerns you. So move forward with confidence, stay anchored in His voice, and remember that every warning you obeyed has positioned you for a future where peace, purpose, and divine alignment meet you exactly where you were meant to stand.